What's going on, rock stars? Hey, it's Christopher Rausch. I'm here with a special live broadcast of the Raw and Unscripted show, designed here to help you move your life forward in the capacity of mental fortitude, physical fortitude, and spiritual fortitude. And I'm super excited today because I have a dear friend of mine, my spiritual advisor, somebody who I've been friends with now for probably, 4 years. And the things that I've learned from this gentleman are pretty significant. We've had some very, very deep conversations, both he and I, just ourselves. We've hosted a bunch of clubhouse rooms. He's been here. He's been on the Raw and Unscripted show a few times. He's been on the Unfiltered Experience, which was my other podcast. And we've had just some pretty incredible experiences together, going deep into the philosophies of life. And for me, it's enabled me to become more of a spiritual person when before I wouldn't necessarily have considered that. I've never been really a religious person, but I never really call myself a spiritual person either. But due to the fact I've hung around people like my guest and my friend Scott, my friends Jock, and a host of other people, my coach Sally, I've been introduced to these concepts and these ideas and these philosophies that have allowed me to find a deeper inner peace, a deeper inner meaning of this whole thing that we call life, rather than the material aspects of it and the egoic facets of it, where we're always accomplishing and thinking that if I get more validation, if I get more things, then I'll feel better, then I'll be more. And it really isn't about that. It's about finding that inner peace and that inner freedom. And when I read the book, it's a great book. It's called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That was my first introduction to really Buddhism or philosophy or spirituality. And because it was an entertaining book about riding motorcycles, I was able to stomach it. And in there, it introduced a lot of different concepts and ideologies. And then when my mom passed, when I was going through her books, I found a couple of books by Carlos Castaneda, who went deep into various different concepts and modalities. And then I learned about Dr. Wayne Dyer. And so I've been on this journey for probably about 10, 15 years that has allowed me to find a deeper inner peace and a deeper freedom about life and be able to separate myself from the ego. And so I'm super excited to have my friend Lee Hite here to talk about spirituality. What's going on, Lee?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good. It is going fantastic. I love your background. It needs more color, though.
A little bit more.
What does that represent?
That's the tree of life.
The tree of life. Explain that to us.
The tree of life. The tree of life is. I mean, we find it in all kinds of traditions. The tree of life is like, we have one source, and it just branches off into all this wonderful tapestry of experience and expression. That's one piece of it. The other piece of it is like, we understand that, it's the as above, so below principle. That, trees, the structure of a tree above the ground is very much like the structure of the tree below the ground.
Yep.
What we see and what we don't see mirror each other. And life is much like that. It's like what life will show up for us the way we are inside. And where do we actually experience everything? Really, we experience life inside ourselves. We see what's outside of us. We see what's around us. We see and touch and feel everything. But where do we really experience all that? We experience all that inside, in consciousness. And so the tree of life is very much a representation of that. And the rest of it, see, there's that person meditating there. So that's part of it. That's just part of and for me, it's part of the practice.
Good. Because we're gonna go deep in that in a second. I just want to welcome some people that are watching live. We got Jamie in the house saying, "Yay, Lee Hite." Got Glenda Joe in the house saying, "Yeah, yeah." Hey, y'all. I'm like, yeah, y'all. I can talk. Jamie says, so true. We got Robert Brooker in the house saying, hey, Christopher and Reverend Lee, Jamie, Glenda Joe. Appreciate that. Jamie says here, Lee Hite, you look like you're in the best of that tree. So true. So true. So one of the first questions that I get asked a lot, and that I remember asking, I think you and also Scott, what's the difference between spirituality and religion?
Religion is what man says. I mean, the simple one is, religion is what man says about God. It's what we have said and the structure we as human beings create around God. So spirituality is what we feel and what we sense about our relationship to life in a much larger sense. So for me, it's like, my own practice and my own study has taken me to the place where, I look at Buddhism, I look at Taoism, I look at the Native American traditions, going all the way back 5,000 years to Zoroastrianism, which is, the oldest recorded religion on the planet, so to speak, in many ways. They all have this core essence. And so the names and the structures around all these practices all really point to the same thing, that there's this larger life that we live in and that lives in us. And how do we relate to that? Spirituality for me is all about that. It's like, how do I relate to this larger life? How do I access it? How do I use it? How does it express through me? How do I express it? What are some of the core principles within it? And how does all that work?
Good.
That's the difference. That is the difference.
So would you say you're a spiritual person or a religious person or both? I'm
a spiritual person. I mean, I have a practice. I work with a center here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And, when I go and I speak on Sunday or I teach a class, everything that I teach really pulls on all of that. It's really cool. It's really brought all of those pieces together. So that is it. I'm much more spiritual than religious. And even my thinking around what I've learned and what I've practiced over the years has changed over time.
Of course. So tell us how you got into all of this. What was your path to spirituality? Because I know your story and I know you weren't always this way. So talk to us about the Lee before finding the spiritual path. And then what was it that got you into it? And then what were like the first couple of things that you learned?
I really came to it on my own. I mean, my parents were raised Methodist, Kansas Methodist. And so in my early years, before I even knew, Mom took us to the Methodist church for our daycare, and she got mad at them because she didn't like some of the things they were doing, so we left. That was it. I'm not even clear what the story was, because it was way before. But anyway, as I was getting ready to enter high school, I started getting curious. Because we had Christmas, you have the holidays, blah, 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 blah. So. We live in the United States, Judeo-Christian country. So, I mean, it's all out there in the culture. So I started looking at it on my own, started reading the Bible on my own, started reading other things on my own. Mom was listening to a radio show in the morning, and I got curious. I said, well, what is that? And there was a what at that time called Church of Religious Science in Redondo Beach. It's now called Centers for Spiritual Living. I went to that. I ended up going there. Mom took me, and that was it. I mean, that was 1974. I got involved in the youth group. I started taking classes with the adults, and I got really deeply involved in the youth program. And the teaching is based on a book called The Science of Mind by a man named Ernest Holmes.
The Science of what?
Science of Mind.
Okay, The Science of Mind.
Good. Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And it's part of the larger New Thought movement, which includes divine science, Unity School of Christianity. They're all New Thought, and if you kind of look back in the United States to teachers like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Thoreau, and people of that nature, it's all about looking at our lives and looking at this universe we live in, and saying, it's all just one.
Yes.
It's all one source, one spirit, one energy, and everything happens in this moment. It's like one of the things that I teach. It's like when I get shaken up, or you get shaken up, or I get a little, little off center or a little dysregulated, I stop and I breathe.
Yeah.
And I look out at the world and I breathe in and say one to myself, and exhale now. And I'll do that 3 times. Breathe in 1, exhale now. And you just look out at the world and just knowing that I am one with everything I see. The cars, the trees, the people, the ground I'm walking on, the chair I'm sitting in, the table I'm using, the laptop, it's all essentially one substance, one essence, taking on a variety of form and substance. It all expresses itself uniquely. And the way I experience it is the way I am. So if I'm feeling centered and grounded and loving and caring, that's the way I experience the world. If I believe that to be fundamentally true about everything around me, then that is what I experience. If I'm not feeling good about me, I'm not feeling good about life, I'm feeling dysregulated, upset, angry, then what's going to happen around me? That is going to be reflected back to me in what I experience, all of it.
Is that vibrational frequency that we often hear so much about?
Sure, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's like the vibrational stuff. That's all true. And it's funny because I kind of took a break from everything for a few years, and I came back into it. When a friend of ours brought me into Clubhouse, I started diving into the spirituality rooms, and I'm hearing all these different words and all these different things. I'm like, what? And it took me a couple of weeks to really reframe the words, right?
Right. Get the cobwebs off it all.
Well, get the cobwebs off it, one, and two, figure out that they were using different words for the same things that I already knew that I had been teaching for decades. But all of a sudden, we had the community, spiritual community, had relanguaged everything. They're not teaching anything necessarily new. It's just different words.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very interesting exercise because I kind of got a little, I don't know, what are they talking about? I'm like, oh wait, that's this is that. Source is spirit, source is God, all that stuff, right? And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. We're just using different words.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of like somebody from 1,000 years ago, coming into the mid 20th century saying, what are they talking about? Right. Well, it's all the same.
Nice. So based on that, what is your daily spiritual practice? What are the methods that you use to incorporate in your life to start your day in a spiritual space? And then if you do get derailed, what are some of the things besides the breathing that you actually use to incorporate that peace of mind and that oneness with the universe? Because so often we're disconnected, right? We think we're distant or we're not a part of what's going on. But really, what I've realized is that we are more the same than we are different. No matter where we subscribe to our philosophies. I heard it said once really, really well that said God has multiple addresses. Because I would ask the question like, okay, there's the Bible, there's the Quran, there's this, there's that, there's all these different spiritual texts, but don't they essentially all say the same thing? And then that's when somebody said God has multiple addresses. It just depends. So what is that daily spiritual practice for you? And then how do you get recentered if you get derailed?
Well, right. I like the different address thing. It reminds me of a song, a group that I actually saw in LA at the Greek Theater, Little River Band.
Oh yeah, I love them.
Little River Band back in the late 70s. Their song, "So Many Paths Up the Mountain." And there's so many paths up the mountain, but the view from the top is the same, right? So it's like all the different traditions, they're all leading to the same spot. They're just taking different paths. And that's what I firmly believe. But as far as my practice goes, I mean, I'm up early in the morning. I take time to sit in the silence, to sit in quiet, meditate, to write a little bit. I have a friend in Texas that we have been trading Bible verses daily, Monday through Friday, for got to be going on 15 years now.
Wow.
Monday through Friday, 15 years we've been trading Bible verses every morning. Yeah.
What do you do with those Bible verses? Do you go research them or do you already know about them?
I go find them. He goes and finds his. I mean, there's lots of little apps that'll throw a daily verse at you every day. You can put them on your phone. Or if there's one that pops into my head for that day, I'll go make sure I get the location right. And yeah, so that's one of my practices. I don't journal every day. I journal frequently. I mean, I do some reading almost every day. And just by the nature of who I am, it's just a matter of, I mean, I see, it's my intention to notice the activity of spirit every day.
How do you do that?
I set the intention. I mean, part of it's just the practice. It is built up in the practice. I'm getting a message that we're frozen somewhere. Anyway, somebody just sent me a message directly. Anyway, okay. The daily practice for me, from the meditation, from the study, from the prayer time, I spend time in prayer. In affirmative prayer daily is not the same kind. It's not with the typical beseeching kind of prayer work that we often see in a lot of traditions. It's more of an affirming realization type prayer, and we can talk about that too.
Yeah, let's go deeper on that in a second.
Yeah. But what that has done for me over time is allowed me the awareness to notice, hey, you know what? You were meditating, you had a thought about that, and here it shows up in your life. Right?
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction. Notice little serendipities, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened, and look, right?
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot. And the more, and here's the nice thing is the more we notice it, the more it happens.
Amen.
Right? It's like the power of intuition, right? The more we pay attention to intuition, the stronger it gets. When we pay attention to the little voice that says turn right instead of turn left, and everything goes better because I turned right. Right?
Yep.
Oh my heavens, the louder the little voice gets and says, hey, you know what? Don't buy that particular bag of grapes over there. Buy this one. And all of a sudden you look and you grab the first one, and there's a bunch of rotten ones on the bottom. Oh, God, I didn't buy that one. I bought this one.
Yeah.
So but that's the nice little thing. It's like God or spirit shows up for me in little whispers.
Yes.
Little whispers and little glimmers. It doesn't have to be this loud, dramatic thing. It's the little things that happen for us in, day out. And that's the kind of way of being that I want to coach, support, facilitate people into getting into that kind of a place where we start noticing the way life is working for us, not just in the big ways, but in the little ways.
Yeah.
Because what I found is that the more I'm aware of the little ways it shows up, the more comfortable I feel, the more embraced by spirit or God or life divine, whatever name we want to put on it, the more embraced by that I feel, the more supported by that I feel.
Good. I just want to make sure we caught that. Let's see. Wendy's in the house. She says, two of my favorite people,
Wendy.
Such sage advice. Thank you, Wendy, for being here. Appreciate you. Feel free to ask us any questions. You guys can all ask us questions. What's going on? Thank you, Jamie. Jamie's digging what you're saying and talking about it, them being facts. So let's go back to what you were talking about before, because I think that's super important, because so oftentimes we think in terms of prayer, like, oh, please, dear God, give me this. And you said something like, you call it affirming prayer. What is the difference? Can you give us an example of that? Because I think that's so important. So many times we're asking for things for ourselves. When I look at that opportunity for prayer is an opportunity for gratitude, and then to wish and to hope and to ask for something for the greater good of the human race, because I feel I'm a part of that. And when I wish it for other people, I find that the abundance trickles down to me, as opposed to, please, God, send me $1 million. I need to pay my bills. Please, God, make my wife not be so angry. Instead of that, please provide more love to humanity. And what happens, like you said before, that law of attraction, where our energy goes, where our focus goes, our energy flows, right? And I love the fact that you brought up the whisper, because so oftentimes we ignore that. We're like, whatever, what is that? What is that? And I've learned, even before meeting you, that whisper, I learned it from Glenn Morshower. Like that little whisper right there is something telling you something. And
Right.
I've had it, even one of the greatest experiences I had that happen was when I was sitting at a funeral, and you know the story, back in 2008. And I was sitting there watching this person get eulogized that I worked with, and I knew her, but I didn't really know her, you know? And it popped into me, this like voice kept nagging at me, Chris, if you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And it really kept sticking with me. Who would show up? What would they say? And when I left the church, I was driving home and I kept hearing that. And I'm like, I guess 10 or 15 people would show up and they would talk about all the stupid shit Chris did. And then when I got home, it was bugging me. I'm like, that's really the legacy you want to leave behind? I mean, I was already doing great things in the world and I was already very successful, but that's what I pictured in my mind. 10 or 15 people are sure going to show up and they're like, oh, remember that time Chris did this? Ha ha ha. Oh, by the way, the postscript on the story is going to be, he was a 7th grade dropout who got his master's degree and changed the world. And that's when I wrote my eulogy, because I needed a bigger vision of who it is that Christopher is becoming and actively engaged in making that happen every single day, as opposed to thinking that the financial and the material and the egoic was going to make me happy. That's what started making me happy, was the fulfillment of using my gifts to make the world a better place. So go deeper into that affirming prayer versus the regular prayer, because I think people can really get a lot of value out of that.
Right. Yeah. Affirmative prayer.
And it just coincides with Mary Kay. What's up, darling?
It does. It does. She's heard me. She's heard me do this. You've heard me do this. And I want to talk a little bit about it, because it's a technique that's been taught for over 100 years, quite honestly, since the mid 1800s. The specific flow of this has been taught, and what it begins with, it's 5 basic steps. One where we just recognize that God is, or spirit is, or the divine is, whatever name we want to call it, right? Call it source. The source is all there is, and we are part of that. That's the second step. We say, God is, well, here, we'll just do a simple example just for more love, right? So we want more love in our life, more love in the life of people, more love in the life of this world. So we say, God is all there is, and God is love.
God is all there is, and God is love.
God is all there is, and God is love. And I live in this presence of God, and it lives in me as love in this moment and every moment. And I know, absolutely, I feel it, I sense it, I feel it surrounding me in this moment and every moment, every breath I take, every thought I think. Everything I feel is this presence of love. And it is in me, through me, and around me. And it is throughout this world. Everywhere I walk, I see and I feel this love. And it's not just in me, it's in everybody. And it surrounds everybody, lifts them up, moves them forward. Love is the prime creative force in this universe that we live in. So that's the first 3 steps. And the last 2 are very simple. We just begin feeling grateful for it. I feel so grateful for this experience of love that surrounds me and moves me forward in each and every moment. Grateful for the experience of love that everybody around me feels. And the last step is I just let it go. I just let go, and I let God be God as love in my experience. I get out of the way and let this spiritual presence do its thing in bringing love into the life of every person, place, and thing on this planet. And so it is.
And so it is. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's so important. I have a question I didn't know I was going to ask you, but it just popped into my head. Can somebody be, because I'm hearing you saying the word God, and I can hear people sitting there saying, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe there's a God. Can we not believe in a God, but still be spiritual?
Absolutely. I think so. I think, it's like, I also have been, over the years, very active in the recovery community, right?
Right.
And so in the recovery community, I mean, part of that is turning, is what we say, turning my life over to the will and the presence of God, turning my life over to God, right? Instead of like, I don't believe in God, there's da, 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 da. Well, you know what? What I often say is, it's like, well, what is that little still small voice inside of you that whispers at you, that guides you, and that gets you, into the right place when you have doubts? And they're like, I said, well, let that be it. let your conscience be God. Let that little whisper be your God. You know, and then you don't even have to call it God. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it divine purple penguin. It doesn't matter what you call it, as long as we understand what it does, right? What does it do for me? What is my relationship with it? Is it that still small voice that allows me to stay true to myself? Is it that still small voice that encourages me to do the right thing, even when nobody's looking?
There you
Right?
go.
Is it
Integrity.
that still small voice that allows me to, roll down the window and hand the guy $5 and say, you know what, do the right thing with that, right? What is it? It's like, what is that sense of larger life, right?
Something outside of myself.
Right, because I mean, it was a long time for me to get past the idea of where I could, or to get to the point where I could use the word God and not envision this large anthropomorphic male being sitting on a chair and passing judgment on me day in, day out.
Right.
Because that's God, or Jesus being God. For me, it's just the presence. And I could say God and mean it's everywhere present, right?
Right.
There was a teacher, Emma Hopkins, who said, God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, right? It's everywhere present, all knowing, all powerful. It is all that. And it is love, light, life, peace, power, beauty, joy, wholeness, health, abundance, prosperity, peace, compassion. It's all of that, right? It is the darkness and it is the light. It's everything, right? Because in the beginning, there had to be just one thing. And from that one, everything else springs forth.
I believe in that. I do. And I think a big aspect that a lot of people identify spirituality with is the act of meditating and getting quiet, because so oftentimes we have so many thoughts going through our brain that half the time we can't even hear the whisper because there's so much clatter going on in our brain of how things should be, our expectations of how things should be. And if they're not in alignment with how they should be, then we're not happy. And we'll be happy when or someday when all those things are in alignment. But the act of meditating, the act of quieting the mind, although I am still a big work in progress, I have found, like I told you before, I said I'm going to go meditate before we talk about meditating. Talk to us about what meditation really is, and maybe give a couple of tips on how people can start in it. Because I know when I've suggested for people to go meditate, they're all, "Oh, Chris, I can't do it. It's too hard for me. It's all these different things." And I get it. Trust me, I get it. I use binaural beats, which allows me to focus on the sound waves that are going in each of the ear, and it allows me to focus on that. And then I visualize in my brain of what I want to see the world do and what I want to see myself do. So I put myself in a future place and I do a lot of breathing. But talk to us about, in your terms, and what you've helped people do to become comfortable with meditating and for it to be successful.
Right. And meditation, it's because there are so many ways to meditate. It's like one of the first things I did when I came out of ministerial school, and I went to the first church I served was in Sun Valley, Idaho. And one of the first things that happened when I got there was I got recruited by the University of Idaho to teach an extension course on beginning meditation.
Oh, cool. So you're an expert.
Which was really kind of interesting. It's like, oh, okay, I can do this. And because I'd been meditating for years and I'd taken classes and anyway, Vipassana retreats and the whole silent meditation retreat, the whole thing. Meditation can be as simple as sitting and breathing and watching your breath.
What kind of breathing are you doing when you're doing that? Are you just doing normal breathing? Are we doing deep breathing?
Normal breathing or deep breathing. Start with like 3 deep breaths, in and out, and then we just watch our breath. That's like meditation 101, right? Is watching our breathing. And then what happens is, like you were talking about, the committee starts to convene in our brains, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, nothing's going on. We got to figure out what to do next. And then all those little things that we need to do later on start popping up, or all the little problems start coming in. We're like, well, you got to do this, or this is going wrong. We got to fix this. We got to do that. And you just go, And my thing is go, no, not now.
Yeah.
And I notice it and I just say, not now. Or I just watch the thoughts come in and watch. I will sit and imagine them as leaves on the stream just floating by, or I'll imagine them as little butterflies and let them float out the window, right? In my brain, I'll just visualize little butterflies flying out the window. Every little thought just flies out the window. And it can be that simple. For some people, it's walking. Walking can be a meditation. Just be very consciously walking down the street, feeling the heel, feeling the roll from your heel to the toe on every foot. Being very conscious, and be conscious about feeling our feet, conscious about our breathing, and just moving down the street. Tai Chi is another good practice. Martial artists. I haven't had the same experience doing forms when I'm doing a martial arts practice. It becomes meditation is about getting to a single pointed focus where all of a sudden I feel in alignment.
Yeah.
And I'm totally in the now moment. What I'm doing is all I'm doing. I'm not thinking about anything else. It's like that. Anything that gets us to that point can be a meditation. So there are lots and lots of ways to get there.
Are you a firm believer in guided meditation, like going on YouTube and following a guided meditation?
Sure. Yeah, they work great. Yeah, I mean, Katie and I, almost every night, if not every night, we use, there's a Louise Hay, like go to sleep meditation. There's lots of them on YouTube. And Louise Hay and I went to the same school. We had the same training. Yeah. I mean, she was years ahead of me, but yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, she went to the same school I did. I mean, her ministerial training was in the same school that I went to, just years later. So yeah, we're connected. We're tied in. Met her a couple times. Real sweet.
We're all tied in. We're all tied in. I want to acknowledge Mary Kay's comment right here. She goes, "Oh my God, that damn committee." She goes, "I tell them time out to them." 100%. We got Robert sitting there saying, "I listen to frequency, elevation, tones before I go to bed every night." That's great. Also, Robert says, "My mission would be pointless without God's help." I feel you, brother. I feel you. And Katie Jane's in the house. So what up, Katie? She goes, "I love guided meditation." Yes. So I have a couple more questions for you before we're going to get out of here.
Right. And look, there's Jacqueline Rose is in the house too. Hi, Jacqueline.
Yeah. What's up, Jacqueline? She says,
for a while.
Yeah. She comments all my stuff. She sends me stuff every single day. She goes, "I can put myself, what I like to call a trance. I did it when I was young. Hear the people talking, but I could just stare straight ahead like in a trance. Haven't done that in years. Haven't done that a lot in years. Well, it sounds like a good time to start doing it. What's shit, now I just forgot the question I was going to ask you.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good. Oh, so you've been coaching and you've been speaking for quite a number of years. Can you give us an example of somebody who might be typical that you have helped become more spiritual or develop spiritual practices, and maybe talk about how they were and some of the things you helped them with and what their successes were?
I mean, I've had so many students, and I think in general, I've got one person I've been working with recently, and he just recently had a breakthrough. That's a huge breakthrough.
Nice.
In that all of a sudden, because he was being very this person, I want to say he or she, this person was being very formulaic about their approach to just what we were talking about affirmative prayer. They're being very formulaic. They're like, am I doing it right? Am I getting the words right? Am I getting this right? Am I getting that right? And spending hours and hours and hours writing it out to make sure that they got it right.
Wow.
And I'm like, listen, and we were just talking just a few days ago. And I said, listen, stop. You've been practicing this a lot. You've been doing this a lot. You've been writing a lot of these. What I want you to do is stop writing them, sit down, and just speak the words.
Yeah. Just take imperfect action.
Speak the words and let them come from your heart. You know all the words, you know all the phrases, you have your own style, you have your own way of doing it. Because ultimately what we're trying to do, what I believe we're after in life is not the things in particular, but the feelings that they represent or the feelings that they engender in us. We have a way that we want to feel in life.
Yep.
We want to feel safe. We want to feel comfortable. We want to feel supported. We want to feel loved. We want to feel like life is flowing for us.
Yep.
Right? And like life is supporting us. And it's easy to lose that sense. And I looked at it, I said, I just want you to put the paper and pen down, sit down, and talk to Spirit. Talk to God. Have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And say, listen, I know that this is all there is and that it's supporting me, that it's working for me, that, the universe supports me in my heart's desire each and every day. And if there is a framework or formula that it is following, it's the one that I've created for
We're all
me,
creators.
for my life. And that's it. And it's like, it's like the old phrase, and it goes way, way back. Thoughts are things.
And beliefs make them so.
Right. And it's like, and you're going back to the New Testament, right? In the Gospels, it is done unto us as we believe.
Believe. Such a powerful word.
Oh, such a powerful word.
I should put it on a wristband.
So that's it. I got him to put the paper and pen down and just go, just talk to God, man.
Amen.
And it was a huge break because he's so wrapped up in doing it right that he couldn't do it.
Yeah. Just take that imperfect action. That's what I teach people to do, is just take that imperfect action. You're going to learn and you're going to grow as you do that. And speaking of doing and speaking of teaching, you have a workshop coming up. It's called Dancing with Spirit. Can you tell people a little bit about this workshop and what it is that you're going to be covering? And then how did you come up with that name? I love that title, Dancing with Spirit. So kind of go into that and let people know what to expect in that particular workshop.
Thanks for bringing it up. I love you so much, my brother. And like I said, I want to know which cohort you are going to be in.
Don't call me a cohort.
Anyway, Dancing with Spirit. It's going to be on Zoom. It's starting a week from next Tuesday. And there's posts and stuff all over my social media. Go find it. Dancing with Spirit. I have a book project I've been working on called Dancing in the Fields of Spirit. And that's kind of the name of my upcoming book, sometime next year probably, unless I get it done sooner. But Dancing with Spirit, that's the way I envision my relationship with God or Spirit or Source or whatever. For me, it's Dancing with Spirit. It's like me having the Spirit and I do a dance on a daily basis. On a daily basis. And it's the way I envision my relationship. It's like one of the things that I do is I envision myself. There's an Old Testament image of Abraham walking through the hills of Judea talking to God. And that's once I heard that and once I read that, I was like, that's it. That's the relationship I want to have. I know that it's flowing through me and in me and all of that. I know that that's it. And I want to have this relationship where it's like where I can just sit down and close my eyes and talk and say, you know what, this is the way I want to experience our relationship with my higher power. Because what I know is it will be for me what I want it to be. what I believe it to be.
Right.
So I can have that. And so this program is very much, I mean, it's got 6 weeks. Every week builds on the week before it. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, this whole idea of oneness. We're going to talk about our place in that. We're going to talk about how, like I said, you know, spirit is always working for us. It's always saying yes to the content of our consciousness. We're going to talk about how we get in our own way. What are the things that we place in front of us that get in our own way? What are the beliefs that get in the way? What are the ideas that get in the way? And the beliefs that create the behaviors that get in our own way. And then we're going to look at, okay, what are the things that are holding us back? What are one of the greatest practices I picked up, like, I don't know, probably 40 years ago? Yeah. Was how can I complete those things that are incomplete? Because every time I have something in my history that's incomplete, some unforgiveness that I haven't dealt with, a project that I keep going back to and saying, you know, I need to get back to that. Well, are you really going to? Or should you just let it go?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Right. So handling, you know, the process, going through and saying, okay, what are the incompletes in my life that I'm either going to trash, deal with, or complete? Right? What is that list? And how do I get through that? And then it's like, what can I, then part of the whole process through the whole thing is really deep taking whatever your spiritual practice is and taking it to the next level. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and like, I can hand you all kinds of examples, but what's important is what's working for you. You know, do you have a relationship with tarot cards or oracle cards? If you do, that's great. That's fabulous. You know, is it, you know, the time you spend building, building your altar and spending time in your personal altar with meditation? Is it your yoga practice that really helped you at one time and you need to get back to because you got away from it? Like, what are the things that I can put in place or change or shake up that will move me forward? Right? So I'm not going to be sitting here handing you necessarily some formula, because we're all unique. But what we're going to do is we're going to come together as a group and we're going to work together and support each other in moving the ball forward and deepening our own practices. And maybe adding, maybe somebody else has something that you look and you go, you know what, that sounds great. Maybe I can try that. Right? So we're all going to work together, you know, to create that.
Katie Jane asks, what are some of the tools in your toolbox?
You know what's in my toolbox.
Hey, now don't be dirty. I don't know if she's asking that we're supposed to be asking ourselves that, or if she's asking you that.
Oh, she's asking me to share what are some of the tools in my toolbox. I have an old, one of my teachers handed me a tarot deck back in the late 70s, and I still have it. And I pull it out every now and then. A tarot deck? Yeah, tarot cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got some friends of mine that are into that.
Oh, see, she says, ha ha ha, I wasn't asking you. That's one of the tools. And meditation, I taught meditation, prayer, and journaling, and stuff like that. Those are my tools. And Katie helps me all the time. She'll listen to me. You know, that's one of the greatest tools in my toolbox right now, is sitting down and just Katie allowing me to ramble and talk sometimes, you know, because I am a verbal processor. I learn stuff when I talk.
I know I talk to myself and I have some really great conversations, and I find that the outside voice, this is no shit. This is no bullshit. I was telling somebody this the other day. When I talk to myself, the outside voice is the smart voice and the inside voice is the one that needs to get with the program, because the outside voice is being honest and congruent and like, hey, Chris, what the fuck are you doing? The inside voice is going, I'm figuring it out. And the outside voice is going, you've been trying to figure it out for 55 fucking years, dude. You need to do this, and this. Okay. And if I swear to God, it works.
It does work. It does work. I mean, if you've watched any of my talks, on YouTube from the center, so Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, and there's a whole bunch of my talks. Sometimes I'll stand there and I'll start talking, and it's all of a sudden words will come out of my mouth in a real different way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was brilliant.
Let me see if I can share that where people can learn more about that and see you in action. I think that would be pretty dang awesome. Any final words, my friend, for people who are struggling to calm the chaos in their mind and find some more clarity in their life before we end out this beautiful conversation?
Yeah.
For those of you guys who want to check Lee out in person in action at the Scottsdale Center for what's it called? Spiritual Living.
Yep. Yeah. Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. Yeah. In fact, I spoke last Sunday. I'll be speaking every other Sunday, basically. Probably the best practice is to stop and listen for a while and decide, is this something I need to listen to or something I need to move away from? Do I need to address it? Do I need to let it go? And then, sometimes it's writing about it. Sometimes it's talking to a close confidant about it. I've got a few people in my world like Katie Jane or Christopher or another friend of ours, Ezra, or Mary Kay, that I know I can reach out and talk to anytime. That if I need them to, they can stop and listen. If I need them to, they'll give me feedback. If I need them to, they'll listen to me and tell me I'm crazy and to get off my ass and go do something about it. Who knows? Sometimes it's just a matter of putting down the tools that aren't working and picking up a tool that will work. To calm the chaos. That's what will make the difference more than anything else, is changing the energy. And that comes in changing the way I am viewing what's going on.
Mr. Lee, thank you so much for having this engaging conversation with me. I want people to go check out the link, facebook.com/Lee.Hite, Hite. Is there an exclamation point on the end of it? Jesus Christ.
No, it's a one. That's a one.
It's a one. Lee Hite 1. Thank you, brother. And just based on what you just said, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's been one of the first spiritual person, first guy I really respected in the space years and years and years ago. I saw him on PBS when I was house sitting for somebody who didn't have cable. And I flipped on the TV and this guy was talking and he had such a calm voice. And he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. And he also said, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you've always got. And so what Lee and I are inviting you guys to do is to take a different path, to stop beating your head against the wall, hoping, wishing, and praying that something changes, because nothing's going to change until you change, until you get the right people in your life to be able to help you to look at things differently. And then you start taking that progressive, imperfect action and you will start to apply it in your life imperfectly. You start to meditate. I've been meditating for years now. I am not very good at it, but I continue to go at it. I continue to use different modalities to find that thing that's going to unlock that peace and that freedom within inside myself. It's gotten a lot better, trust me, but I continue to be a work in progress, as you will be as well. So the reason why this is here right now is because they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and the teacher is right there, Mr. Lee Hite. Thank you, brother, for having this conversation with me. I know people are going to be checking this out on replay and they're going to be connecting with you. I will talk to you soon and we will end out this conversation right now. Thank you, Jacqueline Rose. Thank you, Katie Jane. Thank you, everybody who has been here. Mary Kay, let's see, Jacqueline, Robert, who else was here too? Wendy was here also, Jamie. Thank you guys all for being here, the people that are watching live and the people that will be watching on a replay. We love you guys. We will see you here next time. Don't forget to tune into the Raw and Unscripted show Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We got a lot of cool things coming up throughout the end of the year. So go out there and be the change that you want to see. We'll see you here next time.
All right.